Hi, Achim Schloss from InnerSpace Explorers. I went for a dive recently, and when I was walking to the water, there was this young guy coming up to me. It was like early 20s, and he was like, I know you, you're this DIR guy, you cannot dive like this, you're giving a bad example, blah, 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 blah. So in that case, it came pretty handy to have a reputation of being an arrogant asshole. And so I told the guy what I think about him. He gave me the middle finger and went home, and I came here to make this video because it gave me the ignition basically to do this Drysuit discussion 0.2, because a lot of people asked me about this, and I received a lot of questions. And the problem here is a little bit that there's all these black and white statements out there, and people don't see that there's a lot more colors in this game. And again, it's about making an educated decision and come up with an educated decision that fits your needs. And it reminds me a little bit on this tank discussion. There was, in the old days, there was this, again, black and white statement. If you dive freshwater, you dive steel tanks. If you dive saltwater, you dive aluminium tanks. Well, it's not wrong, but obviously freshwater doesn't always mean cave, and saltwater doesn't always mean warm water and wetsuits. And of course today we have sorry. And of course today we have aluminium tanks that are so heavy that they have characteristics that make them worse than certain steel tanks, and there's steel tanks that are so lightweight that they have buoyancy characteristics that make them even better than certain types of aluminium tanks. So you have to see a little bit where in the world you are, what kind of tanks are available, what kind of diving you want to do, and then choose the proper tank. And the same thing goes for the Drysuit. And so the reason this guy started to give me a hard time was because I was diving a Neopren Drysuit. And obviously, in this guy's mind, a Neopren Drysuit was a no-go for a DIR diver, which I consider simple bullshit. Okay, let's have a look at it. The reason people said DIR has to be a tri-laminate suit and no Neopren Drysuit is because the Neopren Drysuit changes buoyancy characteristics if you go deep. But if I'm not going deep, so my personal issue is that I'm getting old, and I'm freezing. I'm freezing terribly. I can't stand cold water anymore. Probably I've been diving for too long, or too many deep dives, or too many cold dives. I don't know. So it is my main issue. So a lot of my private diving is really shallow. I do a lot of metal detecting. I do a lot of shallow diving on a spot that I really like, that's close to my home, where I go with friends just to spend an hour underwater, no cell phone, no emails, no nothing. I do a lot of shallow teaching, obviously, practicing dives with people, stuff like that. And especially if I'm not moving, like not swimming, but just hanging there, watching somebody, giving advice on certain exercises, etc., I start to freeze. So, simple solution, I bought myself a Neopren Drysuit again, because that makes me cozy and warm. And obviously, if I do a 80-meter wreck dive, I would not go for a Neopren Drysuit. But first of all, then I'm moving, I'm probably in warmer water. And then the best choice is my regular tri-laminate suit. So the reason I'm talking about this is that I want you to ask questions. So if you wanna make a decision in your diving, don't blindly follow all these rules that are given and that you find on the internet, like the one with the tanks I just said, or what I just said now is the suits. Make an educated decision, ask questions, listen to the answers, compare the answers, ask again, ask somebody else, and then based on all the information you gather, make an education and make a decision that fits your personal needs and obviously doesn't interfere with safety rules. So there's nothing wrong with a Neopren Drysuit. If your main diving is cold water and you're diving shallow because you're diving in quarries or whatever, or you're diving in rivers, for example, there's nothing wrong with a Neopren Drysuit. And then there's crushed neoprene and crash neoprene. For those of you who don't know, there's this crash neoprene is the neoprene that's like pre-pressed. So like you take a 7mm neoprene piece and you compress it to 4mm. So the idea is that it cannot compress so much when it goes at depth, which is a bit of a cheap solution and not that good. And then there's the crushed neoprene, and there the neoprene is like shredded, and then the bits and pieces are glued together under pressure in a certain mold, and that gives a very dense neoprene. I think DIR had a suit out there that was called CF200, something like this. Not 100% sure. I had one years ago. It was a great suit, bit stiff, but also fantastic for cold water diving, because the suit itself had isolation properties, and that made it very, very comfortable. But it was a pain in the butt to find a leak and fix it. So yeah, if you see me in a neoprene dry suit, you know why. And I hope that clarified a couple of questions regarding this. If you have more questions, check out our Patreon page. This is where we discuss in detail in a small group. Otherwise, I would appreciate if you subscribe to our channel. If you haven't so, check out also the Facebook page. And I see you next Friday. Bye-bye.